I got home and people were like congratulating me and like, oh my God, like you're so successful, you're this, you're that. And I was completely broke because I had basically made enough money to pay my rent while I was gone.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job, and I was trying to find a side job, but nothing was, accumulating to what I was making before. And
that company wouldn't bring you back?
No, they couldn't.
Oh, wow.
No, I was gone for too long. So they had to replace me. So, and they were growing at the time, so they needed more people to stay on for longer. So I came home and everyone was like, oh my God, you're amazing. You're doing so well in your career. And I was like, I don't know when this movie will come out. And every time you do a movie, it's like, if it'll come out, you just never know. And I was broke, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And I was like, I guess I could just audition. I mean, I guess I came back from a movie, I'll audition. And then I did an audition for like 2 months.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, no one understands this side of the business. No one understands this like post, I can't take your congratulations because I don't feel like I deserve it because I am really sad right now.
Right.
And so I was like, people need to understand what this is. People need to know that like, I'm just not some sad sack who doesn't appreciate things. They need to know like, this is a mini layered issue.
Yeah.
And so I started writing things. I started writing articles. I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know where it was going to live. And I didn't even know if I could put it out there. Like my at the time, I had some reps who were like, "Oh, don't put on Facebook that you're looking for a side job. Like people will see that." And I know I'm no longer with them, but they were like, "Don't advertise that because you're a working actress now." And I'm like, "Well, now I can't even tell the truth." I was like, "No, this is not going to work for me. It's not going to work for me." So I started One Broke Actress, and it turned into I wrote articles for 2 months. I was like,
it was just a blog. It was just whatever you were thinking or feeling at the time.
And I would toss up some photos, and I was like, oh, this could actually be something cool. I don't know anything that exists like this, that's this like honest. And so I put it all up online. And one day in March, a little over 2 years ago, a couple weeks ago, actually, I was like, screw it. Publish, done, click, shared it on my social media. So I was like, here you go, guys. And then the feedback was outrageous.
That's awesome.
People were pumped that I was talking about these things, and actors were like, thank you for saying this. And I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, here's a story about the time I got kicked off a set for being fat. Here's a story, here's a bad agent story. And here's the stuff that like I couldn't say before because I thought I wasn't supposed to talk about it. And I was like, I've been in this business too long. No, if people are reading this who care, who are like going to cast me in something, they'll either one, appreciate it and understand where I'm coming from, or two, they're not people I want to work with.
Right.
And to be honest, those people aren't reading blogs. Let's get real.
They're not reading at all.
I always joke when I make like a joke about like CAA or UT on my podcast. I'm like, by the way, if you're from those companies you're listening, my phone number is.
That's funny.
So
what is your phone number?
It's 72277. So then I was like, this is way more fun than anything else I've done before. And so I pursued it as a blog. And at the time I had a podcast with my friend who was on the show, The Amazing Race. He ended up winning, which was cool.
Damn.
Yeah. We had a podcast called Not According to Plan, and we just kind of talked.
Your friend's Richard Hatch? Thanks for getting that joke.
That's like Survivor season 1, right? That's the season I watched of Survivor. I watched it with my grandpa.
I thought that was going to go over your head for sure.
No. I loved Survivor, like the first 2 seasons. And so his name was Scott Flannery, and Scott ended up winning The Amazing Race. And so he, the podcast had like a moment in the sun, as those things do. And then it kind of fizzled, but he ended up moving to Seattle. But the things I learned from doing that podcast, I was like, oh, I should do this for the other thing I spend all my time doing for One Broke Actress. So I was like, maybe I could just get some people together. And I ended up figuring out that actors are very hard to schedule, and people change and cancel, and Mike's shaking his head in complete agreement.
But I've also found that they're very open and willing to share when they do.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And they're really fun, and there's so much you don't know about some people. And also there were sides of the business that I wanted to know more about. Like I wanted to talk to a makeup artist. I wanted to talk to like different, and it was such a good to get people to sit down and have a conversation with you, and like, put away your phone and like have this time. And so I decided to start as a podcast. And because I was worried about scheduling people, I made it a season. So like 12 episodes would be a season. So I'm recording season 4 right now.
Hell yeah. When you first started, did you have like a goal for yourself of how many times to write a week, or did you just write when you got inspired or when something happened?
I thought when I first started writing, I was just writing to like write. And then after I published it, I was like, okay, I have to write an article once a week.
And you held to that?
Yeah, for a couple months.
That's great.
And then I was like, oh, I'm writing to write. I'm not writing because I have something to say.
Sure.
And so I kind of peeled that back. And so I don't do it. Now I'll write maybe like once every 3 weeks.
And you have other people writing on it too, right?
Yeah, so I decided to open up a space for guest writers because so many actors had cool stories to tell and I didn't have time to interview all of them or to make a full hour-long podcast episode about it. So I have like a guest writers page where I let other people write. And now I'll hear someone talking like in an audition room, for example, and I'm like, hey, if you ever want to write that down. But it's funny because people do the same thing I did when I first started One Broke Actress. They get really nervous that someone's going to read it or that it's going to be like a bad thing for a career. But I get it because we've been told for so long that, you know, we come in, we do our job well, and we keep our opinions to ourselves on a good set. But at the same time, when you go back home, you should have an opinion. And for a while, I was nervous. I was like, I don't have enough credits to be the name of anything. Like, I have a handful of TV credits. I've done some movies, like, but nothing big. Right. And I was like, I felt the need that I wasn't big enough to maintain a presence to, you know, deserve people's attention. And I have a friend named Ashley Pollard who also has an online blog and presence and in New York with the fashion industry. And she told me one day, she said, you know, if you have an opinion, you matter. Yeah. And I was like, oh, damn. Wow, that's real good, Ash. My high school roommate right there. So,
well, to me, it's interesting. High school roommate?
Or no, I'm sorry, college roommate.
To me, though, like, if I'm an actor looking for acting advice, why would I want to see people that have made it? Because that's such a small number and they can't possibly relate. And it's like, why would I not want to read somebody who has a handful of credits and is in the thick of it right now? And
I think that's what makes it interesting and different too, is because so many success stories are written after they're done.
Right.
And I want to know what it's like. Like, I want to know how many jobs you had to work before you booked, you know, the lead of whatever show.
Right.
Like, I want to know, like, how long you had to, like, stay in your career. And those are the questions I like to ask. I'm like, what size? How did you get your first manager? Is it because you knew someone? Is it like, let's open up the curtains a little bit and talk about, like, the shenanigans behind it all.
Because that's so much more fascinating to me.